My name is Hannah, and this is my year of less stuff. Hey y'all, so in today's video, I am just going to swatch all of my eyeshadow palettes. I'm not going to be swatching my single eyeshadows today. I do have this palette of singles right here on the desk along with everything else, and I have it here because several of my eyeshadow palettes are missing their shadows, and all of those shadows are in here. So as I go through, I'm going to replace any missing shadows with the shadows from this pan of singles. But that's the only reason why this is here. These are my pre-made eyeshadow palettes, and I'm just going to go through and swatch each one in full, and I will talk quietly throughout about the formulas, the colors, how I feel about them, just whatever comes to mind, but I'm going to try to keep it pretty calm, pretty even keel. I'll be putting some calming music underneath the whole video. It's the kind of thing that you might watch if you just need to zone out, if you're trying to fall asleep, if you just need something to focus on so you can calm down for a little while. And I'm going to take my time. I'm going to let it be a long video, as long as I can make it, because I think that for something that's just designed for zoning out, calming down, winding down, distracting yourself, falling asleep, the length is a boon. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. So we're going in no particular order at all. This is just the first one that I happened to pick, and I've zoomed in a little bit so that hopefully you can see everything super well and at close range. This was a limited edition palette from Lancome. It was a collab with a fashion house, and I really like it because it's half creams and half powders. So I'll swatch the top row on 5 fingers, and then I'll swatch the bottom row on 5 fingers. This one right here is a cream, this peachy one. This one right here is a shadow, powder, not a shadow, but a powder shadow. This one right here is also a powder shadow. I tend to really dig in when I swatch things because I absolutely love just getting into the texture and kind of messing up my makeup, like finger painting. This one is a cream and it has some micro glitters in it. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the swatch, but it looks really beautiful on the eyes. And then that last one is a powder. So we have cream, powder, powder, cream, powder. Those pink powders really swatched horribly, but they perform really well. I quite like this palette, and I find that shadows last a really long time on the eyes, especially when I mix the creams and the powders together. And look how beautifully this cream shadow swatched. It's like a gray, but it's got some seal blue and purple undertones, and it's got silver shimmers in it. Now for the bottom row, this first deep blue one is a cream, and this second deep blue one is a slightly shimmery navy powder shadow. And these two navy shadows are probably the reason that I have kept this palette, because I don't have very many navy blue eyeshadows. This is a lovely ballet pink cream with some gray in it and also some sparkle. This one's very unusual because it's also a cream. It's almost like a concealer base for an eyeshadow look. And then this last one is the shadow counterpart to the one above it, although it's swatching much deeper, almost like a blue purple than the one above it. So we have cream, powder, cream, cream, and powder. And there's the whole palette swatched, and I've got to say it doesn't look all that attractive, and the swatches don't necessarily speak volumes about its quality, But it just goes to show that swatches aren't really everything when it comes to telling the tale about how a shadow performs or how a palette performs. What I will say about the swatches is that the cream swatches look stunning. So that one right there, that one right there, and that one right there, they really make me want to dig into this palette more. It's a great little palette. Next up we have the Alma Palette. This is a collaboration between Amy Loves Makeup and Amy Hart's Beauty, and I love the way that these shadows feel, perform, and swatch. So I'll go 5, 5, and 5. Heavenly is a duochrome. This one is called Kindness. This one is called Lovely, and it's one of the ones I find myself reaching into automatically whenever I use this palette. Bloom right here is a soft matte neutral, really, really velvety. And gosh, look at that blue. That one's called Blessed. Ugh, so pretty. I love these really, really soft, velvety shadows. There's Heavenly, Kindness, Lovely, Bloom, and Blessed. All right, ready for the second row. We have Petal. This is another duochrome. It's got kind of like a brilliant pink shift running through the kind of white base. This one's called Wish. That is a really special shadow. It's got really shiny glitters in it. Heart. Spirit, like a true periwinkle, hard to come by. And that last one is called Roman. It's like a brilliant mermaid scale color. Petal, it almost looks invisible on my arm, except for the shift, which is really pretty. I think it would make a great highlighter, like a highlighter for the cheeks. There's Wish, which, wow, look how bright that swatch. It's really shining. Heart. Spirit, it's almost like the metallic and then the matte version of the same shade. And then there's Roman. It's amazing. Okay, now for the last row. This first one is Cloud 9, and like the two above it, it's like a white-based duochrome, so it's got a blue shift running through. This is another one that I often reach into. It's called Lover, and it too is really, really shiny with glitters. Dreamweaver, oh, it's like butter. Really soft lavender. And this burgundy is called Inspiration. And this navy blue is called Taurus. So we have Cloud 9, Lover, oh, that's amazing. It's one of my favorites in here. Dreamweaver, Inspiration, and Taurus. There's the whole palette, and something about it I feel looks different when it's swatched than it does in the palette. The pans, the way that they look in the packaging gives a slightly different impression than all of the swatches lined up on my arm. I feel like it looks sort of like more rainbowy, maybe more dimensional. When I look at it in the pans, the purples really seem to dominate. And here on my arm, these deepening shades and this green really pop out. It's so beautiful. This this is what I'm drinking right now. It's a turmeric drink, and it's like the most brilliant greenish yellow. Okay, next up is the Natasha Janina Sunrise palette, and I know that there are a bunch of shades missing from this one, so I'm gonna pull out my magnetic palette and I'm gonna replace them. To be honest, I'm not totally sure where they all go. I think that this must be Day Spring, because I can see there was a bunch of it smeared on the inside of the pan. I think that this is Awakening right here. And this must be Morgan. I believe that this is Aster, and this is Jasper. I'm sure that someone will tell me in the comments if I got it wrong. And I'm gonna stay zoomed out because I had a hard time fitting my whole arm in the frame before, and this is the same number of shadows. So I wanna make sure that you can see the whole palette on my arm at once. I'm gonna go row by row just like I did before. So we have Poppy, Citrine, oh look at that, Phlox, what I presume is Awakening, and then this one is Laurel. Poppy, Citrine, Phlox, Awakening. Oh, that one's so pretty. I'm not surprised that I took it with me when I was traveling. And Laurel. There are a lot of near dupes in this palette. It's kind of mystifying to me. I find Awakening to be so much prettier than Laurel, but on my arm they look almost the same. So here we have what I'm pretty sure is Aster, Glory, Azalea, Morgan, and Agate. Aster, Glory, Azalea. Ooh, that one looks so much prettier in the swatch than it does in the pan. Morgan. That one too, actually, that matte. I don't usually feel that way about mattes, but that looks very pretty. And Agate. It's kind of a boring shade to me, that last one. This palette is really hit or miss, isn't it? Okay, the last row, we have Clove, very beautiful deep burgundy. Carnelian, it's like a goldenrod matte, so pretty. Jasper, also really beautiful. I love that kind of matte. Morning, and Day Spring, just like a rich, classic bronze. Clove, Carnelian, wow, look at that swatch. Jasper, didn't swatch nearly as well. Morning, and Day Spring. The last one's one of my favorites. So there's the whole palette. It looks incredibly repetitive to me. I think that this palette could have easily been condensed down to something half its size and still retained all of its dimension. But it is pretty. I wish there was some more depth, but funnily enough, swatching it here has made me more fond of it than I was before, I think. Alright, next up I have my Rowan Quad, and I think I can zoom in for this one. I actually have two Rowan Quads, and I figure that I might as well swatch both of them at once. So this is the 75 degrees warm quad, and this is the cool quad, which, as you can see, I haven't used nearly as much. I have had the 75 degrees warm quad for much longer. That's part of why I've used it more, but I also tend to reach for it more. I find that these colors suit my complexion better. I would like to experiment with this one more and get more use out of it because it is very beautiful. In fact, I will go ahead and swatch the cool one first. So this light pinky color is called Basque, and it's got a lot of crushed micas in it. It has bigger pieces of mica than the purple one, which is called Rendezvous. It's almost as if it's nearly a matte, or it's more like a metallic than a glitter shadow. This kind of smoky brown in the bottom left-hand corner is my most used shade in this palette. It's called Yep. And this one here is called Meow, and this is the one that's featured so beautifully in all the advertisements, right from lash line to brow. Maybe I should do an experimental makeup look where I apply this shade all over my lid, all the way up into my brows. And maybe I'll do it during makeup playtime tonight. So here we have Basque, Rendezvous, Yep, and Meow. Yep and Meow are really calling to me based on those swatches. I'm gonna give that one a little more so you can see the shine. Yeah, wow, look at the texture on those. Look how they shine. I just can't get enough of this formula. All right, and now the warm quad. We have Obviously. It's another one that's like really chunky in terms of the micas that it has in it. Obviously, this one is Nikki Dust. It's like a sort of a lighter, more taupe brown. Probably my most used shade. J'adore is a deeper brown. And they look pretty similar when swatched, but I appreciate having both of them because on the eyes, this one tends to kind of fade out more and this one tends to stay deeper. And then this red shade, which I featured recently in a look, is called FaceTime. Obviously, I build it up a little more. Nikki Dust, J'adore, and FaceTime. So you can see more of the difference between Nikki Dust and J'adore there, but I will say that I think the differences become even clearer when they're buffed out, when the shades are buffed out. So maybe you can kind of see it better in the tails of the swatches. You can almost see like a slight greenish undertone emerging from this deeper one, and you can kind of see like the taupe undertone emerging from the lighter one. It's kind of like a rainbow, all of them swatched here together. Red, orange, yellow, no green, but blue, purple. It's like a rainbow without green. It's so pretty. I just love these. Hey y'all, I had to take a little bit of a break, so I hope that the lighting hasn't changed too much or anything, but we're moving on to the next palette. So this is one of my favorites. This is actually one that has made it into my little group of products that I would purchase with my own money if I were starting over from scratch. So it's one that I currently have on my vanity and that I've been using on a near daily basis. It's the Persona Identity 2 palette. So this is honest, kind, loyal, and independent. Really love the pigmentation of these shades, the balance between mattes and shimmers, and how useful and also how grungy they are. Honest, it's really hard to see on my skin because it's pretty much the exact same color. Kind is also just a very pale, kind of bone-colored matte. Loyal. I end up using this shade a lot when I use this palette. And Independent. Curiously, these mattes aren't swatching very well. It might be my fault, but it's another one that really shows that swatches don't tell the tale, because these are possibly the best performing mattes in my collection, but they're not the ones that swatch the best. In the next row, we have Passionate, Unique, Driven, and Confident. And curiously, of these four, this matte called Passionate is the one that I use the most. I usually prefer shimmers over mattes, but if I'm going to fall in love with a matte, it's usually going to be a color like this. So there's Passionate, and once again, it doesn't swatch that well, but it performs beautifully on the eyes. Unique, Driven, Confident. And the last row, here's Empowered, Resilient, Brave, and Limitless. Resilient, Brave, and Limitless, the bronze, the brown, and the black, get a lot of use from me. Those might be my three most reached for shades in this palette, in fact. Empowered, Resilient, Brave, and Limitless. So that black and brown swatched really well. They give you a sense of how well these mattes perform. I love this shiny metallic brown. It's not even really a bronze. It really is like a dirt brown that has shimmer in it. It's like a shimmery brown, and that's a shade that I find very useful. So here's the whole palette, all the swatches. It really, since I'm not really a fan of rainbow palettes, even though this is more of a grungy rainbow, to me, at first glance, it really doesn't look like much. Like it's not like this is my favorite color story that I've ever seen, not by a long stretch. It's just so incredibly useful and versatile, and the performance is so good, and that's what makes this one of my all-time favorite palettes. All right, we can stay zoomed in for this one. This is the Nabla Cutie palette in number 1, Nude. I tend to find these mattes a little bit crumbly, but they do work when I blend them out. My favorites in here, though, are these two shimmers in the middle, Seducer and Glorious. So we have Moonlight, Seducer, and Latex Nude, which just feels very dry to the touch. It feels very dry and crumbly to the touch. There's Moonlight, Seducer, and there's Latex Nude. So it felt dry to the touch, but now that I'm swatching it, it's almost turning into a cream on my arm. That really makes me want to give that shade another chance. It makes me want to apply it with my eyes. I mean, with my fingers. It makes me think I should be applying it with my fingers, or then maybe buffing out the edges. It feels really nice. And then we have No Doubts. That feels the same, like it might be that same kind of crumbly powder to cream formula almost. Glorious, which I love using. And then Plastic is also kind of like that creamy feeling. No Doubts, Glorious, and Plastic. Oh yeah, those shades that I usually think of as a bit crumbly are swatching like a dream. I am so tempted right now to pull this out of my box that I have under my desk. It's a box to which I've banished everything that I didn't say that I would buy again. I'm so tempted to pull it out and just like start using it, because I guess I didn't realize how much it transforms these shades to have them warmed up with the finger a little bit. It turns them into like the most luscious, creamy texture. That is a doozy. That's gorgeous. I'm so in love with these swatches that I don't even want to wipe them off, but we have to move on. All right, next up we have the Alter Ego Daydream palette. This remains my favorite palette that Alter Ego has ever released. So I'll try to swatch these in the rows of 6. We've got Conceal, Star-Crossed, Sunset, Celestial, and Cosmos. Conceal is that cream. Star-Crossed has those crushy pearls in it. So pretty. I've swatched a lot of basic shimmery beiges, and this one just outstrips them all. There's Sunset, Celestial, Cosmos, and I'll just quickly grab Sun-Kissed, which is the last one in that row. Pop it right there. Glow is just a kind of like a matte chalk. Fairy Tale is another shimmer with incredible dimension. Fawn, Dusk, and Starlight. So we have Glow, Fairy Tale. Wow, look at that. Fawn, Dusk, and Starlight. And then the last one in the row is actually one of my favorites. It's this one, Cloud 9. It's a bronze, but it's got all of those little bits of crushy pearls in it and makes it super dimensional. Sorry, that swatch was, these swatches are abysmal, but we're doing our best over here. All right, last row. Bubbly, Dreamer, Enchanted, Sugar Plum, and Twilight. We got Bubbly, Dreamer, wow, Enchanted, wow, Sugar Plum, and Twilight. Those all swatched beautifully. And then the very last one is Daybreak. It's like a ruddy brown matte. That looks beautiful too. This one also has my favorite packaging of all of the Alter Ego palettes. And there are all of the swatches. There's so much texture in this palette. I think that that's why I love it. My favorites are those like crushy pearlized shades. They really inspire me, and I like the colors too. All right, moving on to a Natasha Janina palette. This is the Lela palette, and it's missing a lot of shades. So I'm gonna zoom out and pop them back into their spots. This might be kind of a challenge. They have been out of their spots for so long. I think that this one probably goes here, just judging by the color that's smeared around the edge. And yeah, that's called Nude Vino. I think that that is that shade. I know that this one goes here. I think that this one goes here. I think I'm gonna have to look up a picture of this to figure it out. Okay, just as I suspected, I think that one of the shades isn't in here. It's this sort of like shimmery greigey. And I also have this one wrong. This one actually goes here. And I think this is Nude Vino. And at some point I've gotten these two switched around. I wonder where that eyeshadow is. It's not here, is it? Aha! I found it in one of my palettes of singles. It was just hiding out down there. There we go. all done. All right, let's swatch this baby. I'm not gonna tell you the names because I really dislike flipping down that clear sheet and reading off of it. I just find it inelegant, and I don't really care what the names are. We're here to see the swatches. I'll name them myself. Let's call this one Sadie, and we'll call this one Sadie's face, and we'll call this one Sadie's nose, and we'll call this one Sadie's whiskers, and we'll call this one Sadie's ears. This is the Hannah Louise Poston Sadie palette, reclaimed. Those swatches look amazing. I'll say one thing for Natasha Janina, her shadows swatch beautifully, especially the mattes. Compared to other mattes, they swatch so beautifully. We can call this one Sadie's personality. We'll call this one Sadie's eyes. We'll call this one Sadie's paws, Sadie's tail, and Sadie's fur. This palette's all about Sadie to me. Wow, that one looks so pretty. This is such a pretty palette. Yeah. It's so pretty. Natasha Janina shades can be kind of hard to work with, I think. Sometimes I think that her whole empire has been built on the way her eyeshadows swatch, and on the color stories, of course. She's just impeccable when it comes to that. All right, let's call this one Sadie's stripes. We'll call this one Sadie's spots. We'll call this one Sadie's teeth. We'll call this one Sadie's behavior. And we'll call this one Sadie's meow. I feel like my names are way better than Natasha's names. There are all of them. I just find this palette to be rich and cohesive, but also extremely multidimensional. This one to me is much more impressively dynamic than the Sunrise palette. All right, next up we have another Natasha Janina palette, and this one has also been pilfered from in the most dramatic way. So let's return all of its babies back into itself. This is another sort of guessing game or memory game. I know that this one goes right in the middle. This is definitely lime chrome. This is Kava, of course. These both go in it, I think. I think that this is from the Star palette, and this is a single that I have. So it's these four that we need to put back. I want to say that this one, okay, this dark brown is definitely log. And I think that this bronzy one goes here. But I couldn't for the life of me tell you whether this light one or this dark one goes up top or down below. All right, I examined the smudges of shadow around the pans, and I think that the dark one goes up top and the light one goes down below. But hopefully you'll correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. It's nice to see the gold palette back together again. It's been quite a while since it was all composed like this. I tend to steal these singles a lot. I'm excited to swatch this. So here we have Lime Chrome. This one is Python. Sparks. What I'm guessing is Aria. And then my beloved Kava. Look at those. Look at them. Lime Chrome, Python, Sparks is pretty much sheer with some gold glitter, Aria, and Kava. It's so shiny. Oh, we've got Aurora, Dijon, Oro, Log, and Varus. By the way, I remember some of these names and I can kind of see them through the clear sheet. And I know this palette well enough and I know its names well enough that I can easily discern what they are. I just don't know the Lela palette that well. That was why I couldn't do the same for it. Aurora, Dijon. This is one of my favorite mattes of all time. This one right there. We've got Oro, the very heart of the palette. Log, that deep brown. And Varus. I feel like Log, I don't know, it doesn't contribute to the palette. I feel like it throws off the color story a little bit, but it's so useful when building looks, so I understand why she included it. And then the bottom row, this is Brass. It's one of the best. Look at that. Sandstone, Alchemist, Cheek, and Arum. Arum is very soft and it's constantly falling out of its pan. It gives me a lot of trouble. Look at Brass. Look at that. Sandstone, Alchemist, Cheek, Arum. This bunch right here, that bottom row, just looks so incredible. Oh, I love this palette. There is some glitter left behind on my arm, but I'm hoping it's not taking away from the swatches at all. Let's swatch the Kevyn Aucoin Nudepop Palette. This one, I'm pretty sure at this point that I'm going to declutter it, but I haven't done that yet, so we might as well swatch it while we've got it. This one doesn't have shade names on it. A shimmery white, a very beautiful sort of nudie gray, a matte Ashes of Roses, and then this is my favorite shade in the palette right there. It's like an oil spill blackened purple. These soft, sort of like purplish, grayish mattes are what has caused me to keep this palette for so long. Gosh, that last one, that dark purple though, it feels horrible, really dry and rough. This one right here is probably one of the things that's kept me from decluttering it before now. But the shimmers, they don't perform that well. We have sort of a grayish bone matte right there, a very dry, slightly sticky pink shimmer, a very weak shimmer, and another very weak shimmer. Yeah, objectively this is a really beautiful palette, but in practice it just hasn't meant that much to me. And I'm sure that I'm going to declutter it, but I'll wait until I go through all of my palettes when I'm bringing them back out after their quarantine under my desk, to kind of like officially do that. But there are the swatches. All right, this is the second to last palette. It's the Alter Ego Hara palette. I think we can zoom in a little for this. This one is so pretty. I've been thinking this might be kind of on the chopping block too, because I tend to reach for other ones instead of it, not because it I found the missing shadow, and then I think my camera battery died and the camera cut off. Hopefully I got all of the necessary footage, but I'm gonna go ahead and swatch these guys. So this is my favorite black. I like it even better than the Persona black. It's so dark, so pigmented, and so blendable. It's really, really great. These are the two matte greens we've got in here. One's a little bit more pine green, and one's a little bit more of like a khaki. Then we've got two metallics. One of them is green and one of them is gold. And then a really nice mustard matte to finish it off. Those are really metallic. Kaleidos has a great formula. It's kind of like what you see is what you get, which I feel like is a little bit rare in the makeup world. That has been true of very few of the palettes that we've swatched. It's not really true of Natasha Janina. It wasn't true of the Nabla palette. It wasn't really true of the Persona palette. A lot of the palettes, like, you have to play with them and use them on the eyes and mess with them to learn what they're capable of. I find that with this Kaleidos palette, exactly what you see here is exactly what they're capable of, and it's wonderful. Gorgeous packaging too. So that was it, you guys. Those are all of my palettes, including quads. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 palettes in residence now at the Louise Poston residence. And I have a feeling that these two, the Nudepop and the Sahara, might not be welcomed back into my collection after their vacation in the box under my desk. All of the rest of these I think will be. My interest in the Nabla Cutie palette has definitely been renewed because of this swatch party. Same with the Alma palette. I was so impressed. I mean, I remember how beautiful these are. I just need to remind myself to play with it more often. And the rest of them I feel like are just old friends. Like, I know them very, very well. This was super fun for me. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching it, and I really appreciate you being here and continuing to watch my channel during these strange times. Hope that you are finding ways to keep your spirits up and be kind to yourself. Don't forget, whatever you do, to take extra good care of yourself right now so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.